This question says, evaluate the following function at the values of 6, -1, and x minus 2. And our function is f of x equals x squared plus 1. So let's start evaluating at 6. So for x equals 6, f of 6 is 6 squared plus 1. So everywhere I see an x in my function, I'm changing that value to 6. 6 squared is 36, and 36 plus 1 is 37. So to evaluate the function at x equals 6, we get 37. F at 6 is 37. And let's do it at x equals -1. F at -1, everywhere I see an x, I'm going to change that x to a -1. It's going to give me -1 squared plus 1. You'll notice I put parentheses around the -1 because I want to make sure that I am squaring that number, the whole number, and not just the whole number including the sign and not just the number part. -1 squared is a positive 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So we found that at x equals -1, our function is 2. And then our last one, we want to evaluate the function at x minus 2. That means we're finding f of x minus 2. Everywhere we see an x, we're going to change that to x minus 2. So we have x minus 2 squared plus 1. Once again, I use parentheses because I want to make sure I square that whole thing. And when I simplify, this becomes x minus 2 times x minus 2 plus 1. Squaring something means multiply by itself. We're going to multiply that out to get x squared minus 2x plus 4. Carry down that plus 1, and we'll combine like terms. That's x squared minus 4x plus 5. So the function at x minus 2 is x squared minus 4x plus 5. This question says use the graph of y equals f of x to answer the questions. For how many values of x is f of x equals -3? And what is the value of f of 2? Let's start with part A. For how many values of x is f of x equal -3? So we have to keep in mind that f of x is the same thing as y. So what we're really saying is how many values of x has y equal to -3. So to figure that out, I can go on my y scale to where y is equal to -3 and draw a horizontal line. And I want to think about how many times that horizontal line is crossing the graph. So this is the line y equals -3, and I can see right here I have a point on the graph, so there's one x value of -1. Here's another place where it intersects the graph. That one's not labeled. We could make a guess about it. It looks like it's about -4. And then we have one more place, and I'm going to erase here so we can see it more clearly. We can see that that's an open circle. And the open circle means that that's not part of the graph. So even though that's labeled on my picture here, because it's labeled next to an open circle, -9 doesn't count as a point on this graph, -9, -3. So we have two places where f of x equals -3. two x values where f of x is equal to -3. So that's how many values of x, two values of x have y values that are -3. Then for the second part where it says, what is the value of f of 2? We have to remember what this notation means. F of 2. 2 is my x, and f of 2, so this entire notation here, is my y. So what's asking me? It's asking me to say, what is the y value when x equals 2? So I'm going to go to my picture. I'm going to find an x value of 2. And I'm going to go over to the graph to see what that y value is. And that y value is -1. So f of 2 is -1. Use the intercepts to graph the equation 8x plus 3y equals 12. This is a linear equation because both x and y are raised to the first power. And we only need 2 points to graph a line. And we're told in the instructions here to use the intercepts to graph this line. So we're going to find both the x and y intercept. I usually like to find the y-intercept first because sometimes it's a little bit easier. The way you find a y-intercept is by letting x equal 0. So in my equation, I'll substitute a 0 in for x, and that would give me 8 times 0 plus 3y equals 12. 8 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 3y is 3y. And I'll divide both sides by 3, and that gives me y equals 4. So I have a y-intercept of 0, 4. Then I'll find the x-intercept. I'll find the x-intercept by letting y equal 0. So I'll substitute a 0 in for y, giving me the equation 8x plus 3 times 0 equals 12. 3 times 0 is 0. 8x plus 0 is 8x. And I'll divide both sides by 8. And that gives me x equals 12 over 8. And that'll reduce. 4 goes into 12 3 times. And 4 goes into 8 2 times. So that's 1.5. So my x-intercept is 1.5 comma 0. And to graph the equation, I'll plot both of these points, 0, 4 and 1.50. And I can connect these 2 points with a straight line. And I was able to graph the line with those intercepts. This question says the center of a circle and a point on the circle are given. Write the equation of the circle in standard form. The center is -5, 4, and the point on the circle is -2, 1. So the equation of a circle in standard form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And the center of the circle is the ordered pair hk, and r stands for the radius of the circle. So we were given the center of the circle, and so we have values of h being -5 and k being 4. So we're going to be able to substitute those values in for h and also for k. But in order to complete the equation of the circle, I need to have the value of r. And knowing the definition of a circle is that we have a center point, and all of the points that are on the circle have the same distance from that center point, and that distance is the radius. I know that the radius can be found by finding the distance between the center and any point on the circle. So we were given the center and a point on the circle, so we should be able to calculate the radius. The distance formula is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So we're going to let one of these points be x1, y1, and the other point be x2, y2, and calculate the distance, which is the radius of the circle. So that's going to be x2, that's negative 2, minus x1, it's negative 5, all squared, plus y2, that's 1, minus y1, which is 4, squared. So this is going to simplify to be square root of negative 2 plus 5 squared plus negative 3 squared. We have square root of 3 squared plus negative 3 squared is 9. We have square root of 9 plus 9, which is square root of 18. And I'm going to leave my radius in this format, even though it could simplify a little bit more. I will substitute my radius and the h and the k into the standard form to get x minus negative 5 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals square root of 18 squared. This simplifies to be x plus 5 squared plus y minus 4 squared, and square root of 18 squared is 18. So that gives the equation of the circle in standard form.